Hello folks, hopefully you're having a good day. It is time for some more hobby nightmares. Been a good one today, just getting lots of work done. My little girl has tonsillitis at the moment, so she is spending some time recuperating, and whilst I've got a bit of time on my hands, I thought I'd come on and do some more hobby nightmares. Let's jump in, shall we, with our first hobby nightmare of the day, and that is from... who is this? Afternoon. Okay, how's it going, man? Is that your actual name, Afternoon? Surely not. Hello, old wise exiled lad of the north. It's Afternoon here, the Malaysian hobbyist who wants to mimic everything cool the West does. Today, I would like to share a particular experience with you that happened a few months back in terms of hobby time, in which case I was the actual nightmare. And that's the time I attempted to do live action role-playing dueling. Okay, everybody knows my opinion on live action role-playing, okay? Good for you if you do it, but it ain't for me. That's what I'll say. Mr. North, in my opinion, your tangents are the best part about your channel, so go ahead and rant or add on to the story with your experience whenever you feel like it. Alright, cheers, man. It drives some people crazy, but, you know, it is what it is. Let me keep it simple. I love medieval fantasy themes. I'm one of those people who would start up a new medieval RPG fantasy video game and be like, ooh, you get to pick orcs, elves, dwarves, interesting, and go on to pick a human knight with a longsword as a starter weapon, because knights dueling with swords will never not be cool, and I will die on this hill. No, you're correct. You are correct. Unless I have a particular character in mind, like an orc, I will never play an elf, right? Who isn't muscular. I will never play an elf, right? Dwarves rarely, because they're short. But orcs, green kings, dude, yeah, that'd be me. I'd do that all day long. Inception. I was first introduced to the LARP scene when I was a kid via an old TV channel called AXN. I have no idea if it's still up and running, but I used to watch CSI New York, the series on it. In one of the episodes, there was a death involving a person clad in full metal gear and a crowbar, and if I recall correctly, the victim was explained to be role-playing a post-apocalyptic raider. Really? This sounds amazing. They had flashbacks of him fighting his friends in a junkyard with a tyre rim and a crowbar, and it looked like good fun. Who thinks dressing up and dueling people in the junkyard sounds fun? My mother chuckled on the TV. Well, I do. Many years pass, and this core memory was buried deep into my subconscious, until one day, a video emerged on my recommended on YouTube, and that piqued my interest, when I was searching on how to mint coins for a tabletop RPG I was about to run. It was a channel named Skilltree, who was talking about LARPing. I slowly clicked and started falling down the rabbit hole of all kinds of LARP events, such as Biker Line, Empire, etc. I saw what fun there was to be had, and I wanted my own LARP group, and I tried to search online to see if Malaysia has a LARP community. I was somewhat happy to see that it does, but downtrodden to realise that it was relatively small. Events are all over the place with different themes, and all their events are hosted were 4.5 hours drive away from where I actually lived. So I thought I'd just start my own LARP dueling club. I called up 3 of my friends from the friend group chat and told them my idea, and, to my delight, they agreed to give LARP dueling a try. This is going to end terribly. Long story short, the 4 of us brainstormed and searched for all the information that we could about LARP and how to build our own foam swords. As you may know, because we're from Malaysia, a lot of the tutorials online that taught us how to build our swords with used materials that were, unfortunately, unavailable to us. Please don't tell me you did metal swords. Please. Sword forging, crafting. So, the process of trial and error with different materials to build our swords was tiring, but totally worth it. A short description of how to build a foam sword normally would require, number 1, EVA foam, which we were able to get, number 2, a core, which we were able to mimic what YouTubers taught us initially, kit spar, fiberglass rods, and 3, contact cement, which were named differently in our country. There's no such thing as contact cement in our hardware craft stores. The first sword was made with a garden metal rod as a core and with foam wrapped around the core. It looked decent, but when we did some swinging to test it out, the durability, it broke within 5 swings. The second sword we made with a PVC core, glued together between 2 pieces of thick foam, and cut to the shape of a sword, and it worked very well, and it was extremely durable. We tested it by hitting it against the column 100 times, and it didn't even warp. At long last, we got to duel each other. It took us 4 adults 3 weekends to finally finish building working prototype swords. Jim, Dan, Brian and I were all extremely eager to face each other in glorious combat. This is going to end terribly. Not one of you is trained. You're just going to be windmilling on each other until one of you gets hurt. We did not even build foam armor. Oh my god. We did not even establish character names. All we wanted to do was test out our new swords against each other. This is the most man thing I've ever heard in my entire life. You could put 20 men in a room with some sticks, and they'd create a sport called sticky throwy catchy, right? I don't know how that sport works, but they would invent a sport. They would have tournaments, they would have groups, they would have, they could be there all day having fun with each other, right? If you put women in a room with some sticks, they will ignore the sticks, sit in a circle and talk about life until you all get bored and bitchy and start having arguments with each other. That's just how we are. That's not a positive or negative thing, that's just how we are, right? Men are scarily easily entertained. This is such a man story. Let's get some sword and just whack each other with it for a bit. My god. We happily called it a day and scheduled our next meetup for actual combat. Little did we know, what we would be doing would be the topic of laughter in every gathering from then on as a core memory, for better or worse. The scene of the crime. On the day we were scheduled to playtest dueling, Jim told me he was a little embarrassed to be seen in public playing with foam swords. Based Jim, yeah, with you on that one. We originally scheduled ourselves to duel at a soccer field in the afternoon. You can't do that. Hire a private place, man. Just to get going, you know what I mean? Don't just stick people in public. No worries, I thought. There were a ton of abandoned warehouses nearby to the public field. We can scope for ones that aren't occupied by squatters and try dueling within the warehouses. That way, we can duel to our heart's content, while at the same time have enough walls to cover us up for privacy. All 4 of us carpooled Jim's car towards the abandoned warehouse area. We left a change of clothes in Jim's car for us to change into less sweaty attire after dueling, so we could have dinner together. This detail is relevant for later. The 4 of us entered one of the abandoned warehouses, where the roller shutter was half broken. We did a thorough walk around the warehouse to ensure there were no squatters or weird stuff happening within the warehouse. The light streaming in from the broken roller shutter was the only source of natural light, so the whole warehouse was pretty dark. Is anyone seeing this? Like, this is going... Like, every single warning sign is here. Again, this is men. This is men. This is what we do. Right? We're shown the warning signs by life, and we stroll happily past them into consequences. Nurgle's Blessing. Around 10 minutes of surveying to ensure it's safe. After about 10 minutes of surveying to ensure it's safe, 2 of my friends were growing restless. Oh my god, afternoon, let's just duel. We've been building these swords for 3 weeks, Brian said. Hold on, I think we should do a check on what's on the ground. Could have broken glass, could be dangerous, you know, I responded. Dan ignored what I said and took a steady stance with his sword drawn. I'm just going to go for it, Dan said while facing me. Let's duel right here, Noon. Brian and Jim can duel too. Then we clashed swords, foam on foam. It was glorious. Every move, every swing of the weapon, and every clash felt amazing. Every cool move we could think of dueling sword fights we would attempt. Cringe, I know, but you should really give it a shot. Dude, I want to, like I'm a man. Every man listening to this is going, cool. I'm nodding. Oh, cool. Then it happened. I went for a strike from below my waist. My sword brushed against the floor before I struck upwards at Dan, who was anticipating my attack. From the corner of my eye, I saw a projectile launched towards Dan's torso. I had actually accidentally hit some sort of unknown object from the floor towards Dan. I could not react in time, and the projectile collided with Dan. Me and Dan stood in the dark for what felt like eternity in the dim warehouse. I could not make out an expression from Dan. He was quiet, and he wasn't moving. Dan, are you alright, mate? I said shakily. I thought I'd accidentally stabbed Dan with a broken glass projectile. Then the smell hit me. Something stank. I lifted up my sword and could see a viscous liquid running down. I pointed my sword towards the warehouse floor, hoping the light from the door can help me make out what the thing was. It was brown. Dan started screaming and gagging. Oh no! Jim and Brian started panicking because they thought Dan was hurt, but I knew what had happened. I had accidentally whacked a piece of turd onto Dan. We ran out of the warehouse. We ran out of the warehouse. Just 4 grown men. Oh, shit. And they ran out of the warehouse. Dan's shirt was covered in a brown splatter. He started stripping while stumbling out of the warehouse towards Jim's car, gagging and groaning all the way. I understood Dan wanted to change his clothes, so I started sprinting towards Jim's car. Jim then overtook me with his sprint and stopped us, pointing a sword at us. Stop, stop, I just washed my car, he screamed, stopping me and Dan from reaching the car. Then we heard a few gasps and realised there were factory warehouse workers in the neighbouring block staring at us from far away. What a sight to behold, a man threatening a half-naked man with a sword. In the end, Dan and I had to hide inside the abandoned warehouse, while Jim, extremely embarrassed, and Brian had to drive home to get us water and some soap to wash off the poop before we were allowed to change our clothes or get anywhere near Jim's car. Moral of the story, use public spaces and make sure the floors are clean. We're still playing LARP duels to this day, albeit in a brighter warehouse with electricity, my family's, and I've opted to craft some armour too. We are now 8 people in total and are thinking of ways of implementing role-playing aspect into LARP instead of just dueling each other non-stop. If you have any tips that you could give me and my friends, I would love to hear it. I hope you and your audience had a good laugh at Jim's expense and keep doing what you're doing. All the best from Malaysia North, your parasocial friend, Afternoon. Alright. What I would do in your situation, my man, is you're in a modern setting, right? You're in a warehouse. So I wouldn't do any sort of medieval LARPing because there aren't any forests nearby and that can lead to problems in and of itself. So what I would do, I would look for settings that have swords, like Highlander, right? Highlander is a setting that has immortals fighting with swords in a modern city, right? Trying to kill each other. Trying to duel each other till one of them is left. It's literally a tournament with swords. That's just, it's cool, man. So I'd go with like something like Highlander, because then it immerses you more in your surroundings. Because 2 Highlanders, it's 2 immortals from Highlander would actually fight in an abandoned warehouse with swords, right? That kind of thing. That's what I would do if I were you. Anyway, our next one is from Kronos. How's it going, man? He says, it's a short one. He says, all hail northernest of exiles. Please call me Kronos. I come to you bearing what I think may be a nightmare. A friend of mine got back into the hobby at the start of last year and asked me to show him how to play. I told him to have a look at what army he wanted to do, and that we'd start small and build on what he gets over time. Every time I would use a different army which I owned, so we could see some experience facing different armies. Some of the lists I did were lists that could easily have been beaten. In every game, I would show him and tell him what to look out for in the models in the lists. After a few months, he decided he didn't want to play me anymore, as apparently I was a bit too good for him. I was a bit taken aback by this, as a fair few of my lists I had toned down from what I usually take. That doesn't matter, man. Okay, if you're winning every single game against a new person, he's going to go, yeah, fuck this. Why am I playing? It doesn't matter what you take, He started playing other people and gained more experience. The middle of last year, he wanted to start playing me again. I reminded him of what he told me earlier in the year, and said that because of what he said, I didn't want to play him. A few times this year, he's brought up having games against me, but I brush off the question. Am I being an arsehole? Yes, you are, regarding not wanting to play him again. Am I the nightmare for beating him, even with lists that he could have... Dude, even with lists that he could have beaten with easily, but yet beaten him instead. If this gets read out, thank you kindly. Regards, Kronos. Yeah, dude, you're being a bit of an arsehole. Even your attitude is coming across here. Like, I beat him with armies that, you know, he should have beaten me, and I just kept beating him. And then he told me he didn't want to play me because I was too good for him. And then he goes away and he gets better at the game. Now he wants to play me? No. You know, that kind of an attitude? Yeah, if this is your friend and he wants to play a war game with you, and you're a war gamer and you don't want to play him, dick move. Just saying. You know, especially because it sounds like, to me, right? You know what this sounds like? It sounds like, from the language you were using, you were beating him because you knew the rules better than he did. You obviously haven't done a very good job of teaching him the rules, right? So he's losing every single time, and it's getting frustrating. He's then gone away to other people. He started playing them. He's doing well. He's winning games. And now he's got his confidence back, and he knows how to play the game better. Now he wants to play you, and you're refusing. That's how this is coming across. I'll be honest with you, right? Yes, you are being a bit of an arsehole here. You need to play this guy. You're being a bit of a dick. He was honest with you, and he told you... He wasn't being nasty to you. He said, guy, dude, you're better than me, and I'm not learning very much. You know, you keep winning, and I'm not getting anywhere with this, so I'm going to stop playing you. I need to go play somebody else and learn how to do this, right? If he wasn't being rude to you by saying that, and it sounds like he wasn't, it sounds like he was just being honest, then you're a bit of a dick for saying, yeah, I'm now not playing you because you said you didn't want to play me because I was too good. Like, that sounds really dickish to me. You know, again, the way you brought it up as well, you know, he should have beaten me, but he should have beaten me with the armies he was using and the models I was using. If you're saying that to him, if I'm starting in the hobby, Kronos, right, and I'm playing you, and you beat me because I'm new, but then you say to me, well, you should have won that because my models aren't as good as yours, I'm going to want to just stop doing the hobby altogether. It sounds to me like that's what you've been saying to him. Oh, I'm surprised I won that. Huh. My models aren't as good as yours. I'm surprised I won that. My army's nowhere near as good as yours. You should have won that. You should have won. If you keep saying that to him, he's going to go, do you know what? Fuck this guy. I'm going to go learn somewhere else. And he has done. Now he's come back to play you. Go, yeah, I'm good now. I think we can have a good game. And you say no. Huh, no. Because you told me last time I was too good to play you. So, mate, stop being a dick and play your friend. And if you don't want to do that, then just tell this guy what the truth is. Listen, you told me I was too good for you, so I now believe I'm too good for you, so I'm going to go somewhere else. At least be a dick to him so he can go, yeah, I don't want to be your friend anymore, and he can go somewhere else and play some good games of Warhammer, alright? Sorry, but, you know, you did ask me if you were being an asshat, and there you go. Here is your slap on the wrist, Kronos. You're being a fucking dickhead. So stop it, alright? Cool. Moving on. Who do we have next? We have... somebody who hasn't given me a name. Alright, I'm going to go with Anon then. Hi North, hope you're well. It's been a long time since I sent in a story. Okay, it's Ben, the same dude who assaulted a handicapped dude because he shat in my chair and because he was an all-round douche nozzle. I don't remember that. I have a feeling I should remember that hobby nightmare, but I don't. I'm also stuck playing the hobby alone due to living in a small town in New Zealand. I remember this dude now. Right, you had that, yeah, you had a house that was kind of like a tree house. Is that true? It was a weird one. Anyway. I'm also stuck playing the hobby alone due to living in a small town in New Zealand. Besides the kids' hobby club I run, I've had a couple of people interested in joining the hobby since I sent in that story about Goldface, but this place is overtaken by meth heads and I'm paranoid about inviting people around to my place due to this. Dude, where are you living? Where are you living? It's crazy. Anyway, on to the hobby nightmare, or to be more accurate, the hobby funny. For years, I GM'd a campaign of the Rogue Trader tabletop role-playing game. It was an epic tale. I had 4 players all through the campaign. The rogue trader was your stereotypical eccentric rich guy named Maglis Godfrey, with a masterful moustache, who had frigged up the once prosperous Godfrey dynasty down to a single but powerful light cruiser, the Sovereign Venture. He was more interested in travelling the Calixis sector, hunting all the game he could, than running the dynasty, and that was his motivation to leave the Coronis Expanse, because he had managed to take trophies of all the scary critters across the sector. Then there was the ever-beleaguered Seneschal Aidan Visser, a womanising and intelligent noble-born who was the real brains behind the organisation. Poor Aidan. He turned into the biggest punching bag of the crew, as he was the least combat-equipped of the player characters. Then there was the tainted noble-born Lehman Havelock, that the others called Lemon. An assassin who was recruited into the crew because of the crew's Inquisitor's ally, Azakir Halgriv of the Ordo Xenos. Lemon was played by my best friend, and that friend always loves playing smug, selfish, ruthless assholes, and Lemon was no different. As much as I would like my friend to finally RP something different, he has fun playing these characters, and they are pretty entertaining, especially when they are given their just desserts. Lemon eventually became an absolute slaughterhouse. He also held the star map that would allow the crew to find the legendary subsector-sized piece of space lost in the Halo stars. That was their eventual goal. But the last character, and the one at the centre of this story, is the arch-militant, Nova Plex. She's not just Maglis' bodyguard, she was also the dropship pilot and was another real, character, shall we say. She also became a killer almost on par with Lemon. She had an excessively dark backstory, even for 40k, but she was nice, happy, a chirpy person who seemed to charm every PC she talked to. So much so, many of the crew were more loyal to her than Maglis, which wasn't much of an achievement to be honest, because he was a bit of an arsehole. Over the campaign, the player characters made many enemies and many allies, the first being the aforementioned Inquisitor, Azakir Halgriv. He was tainted noble-born, with a backstory very similar to Lemon's, so much so, I'm pretty sure my friend was ripping me off. He was a very fair, rational and understanding individual, he was an Inquisitor, who cooperated with the crew. His goal aligned with the crew, and he had a couple of Inquisitorial Stormtrooper regiments at his beck and call. The PCs really liked him, despite the fact that he was, for all intents and purposes, a GM PC, a Game Master's player character. He had his flaws and made mistakes, being a pretty newly minted Inquisitor. He was a player character I roleplayed in my cousin's Deathwatch campaign. The player characters also allied with an Eldar craft world, Dalorsia, and of all things an upcoming Orc War led by my self-insert and all-round weirdo war boss Dakdref. Dakdref and his orcs' minds had been warped by some alien tech that made Dakdref and much of the orcs atheist materialists who were also militant in their atheism. But Dakdref allowed many of his followers to believe in Gork and Mork even though it was illogical, as long as they know who's the biggest baddest orc this side of the sector. I loved RPing as Dakdref, but boy did it destroy my throat doing the orc voice. I'd set him up as a big ally at a later date, but the campaign didn't last long enough. Then there was the almighty Stormtrooper, Darenzik, who helped the PCs in a mission, and a demolition expert who, for some reason, became such a beloved memetic badass to the PCs, he was said to be the reborn God Emperor of mankind. I really have no idea why, but I rolled with the meme and made him survive a couple of unsurvivable scenarios to keep the players from being heartbroken when he passed, which cemented him further as an utter badass. There was a running joke that Azakir was just a figurehead and Darenzik was the true mastermind. Dude, the best thing you can do here, as you're doing, is lean into the fact that he might be the Emperor Reborn. Like, that's awesome. Let's just lean into it. I love that. It's awesome. Anyway. But their best ally, and the other character in the centre of the story, is Veteran Sergeant Calicor, formerly of the Raven Guard. Now, Calicor has to be one of my favourite characters I've ever written. His backstory is a bit convoluted, so I won't go into too much detail here, but he was an Alpha Legionnaire recruited during the late Horus Heresy, who may or may not be using Corvus Corax's stolen enhanced gene seed. Eventually, he became disgusted with Chaos and its worshippers, so left to go on his own war against Chaos. This eventually led him to infiltrating the Raven Guard to become Calicor, a tactical marine, so he could be in the right place at the right time to destroy a demon sword thanks to some prophecy shenanigans. One issue here, man. That would make him over 10,000 years old and the oldest space marine in the setting, which he isn't, right? Unless she's in a dreadnought. After he completed this mission, he joined the retinue of Azakir's master, Inquisitor Arlathan Akarkin of the Ordo Hereticus. After Calicor found out about the player character's mission after aiding them like a cat, he decided to just join them. I love that. I love a space marine just going, oh, you guys are cool, and just like rocking up. It's like, I guess I'll chill here. Alright. Calicor was a marine from the Horus Heresy, so I really shouldn't have made him so autistic, I guess. That's how I envision space marines, though. Personally genetically enhanced, autistic people in space. During their travels, Nova and Calicor started a strange friendship. Calicor was actually a sorcerer, and when Nova's latent psychic powers began to bloom, thanks to a quick loss of their Geller field before being ejected into real space, and Calicor, along with the ship's astropath, were helping Novaplex in controlling her power in secret, even from Azakir. It also helped Nova's player character that she thought Calicor was hot, quote-unquote, due to the art I showed them that I stole from the Deathwatch core rulebook, and would flirt with him a lot, even though he had no clue what was going on. Yeah, Space Marines don't react to that. I would like to have Space Marines put in that situation more often, because there are some Blood Angels and Dark Angels that are legitimately good looking, you know. So even in Horus Heresy, like you hear female characters describing Blood Angels as like, that is the best looking man I've ever seen, but then they don't flirt with them or, you know, act like they're swooning over them at all, you know, which isn't realistic. You know, if you've got like a 7 foot tall dude who is just, you know, the epitome of man, and also is designed to inspire awe in the human species, they're going to get crushed on a lot. Do you know what I mean? Which never really happens. Like even Garviel Loken, you know, there's a reporter who talks to him, and she's a woman, and she's like, yeah, he's really handsome. But then she just stops and moves on. It's like, dude, what's going on? Anyway, despite all of this, I don't think she's quite comprehended how asexual Astartes are. Yes, they are. So, after Maglis decided on a whim to buy a strip club on Port Wanda, which he paid like 2 profit factor on or something like that, as the owner really didn't want to sell it, during one of their many visits, Nova decided to take Calicor to the strip club. I love this. I can't remember how Novaplex managed to convince Calicor to go, but then she was swimming in fellowship stats and managed the role very well, I guess. So, Calicor agreed to go to the strip club. Maybe it was due to his sheer curiosity. Or was it because she framed it as something important to their mission? If that was the case, that'd be a big mistake. So, they snuck Calicor into Port Wanda inside one of Maglis's many Chimera APCs. So many, they would use them as an informal bus system throughout the Sovereign venture. A Chimera that was almost scraping its chassis on the tracks as it drove towards the strip club, because Calicor insisted he needed to wear his armour. I love this so much. Of course the Space Marine, you know, like insists he must wear his armour when he leaves the ship. They eventually took him to the back entrance in an alleyway, and inside, where they met with the stripper, who was meant to do the one-on-one session with Calicor, including a lap dance, I think. The stripper was more bemused by this than anything, but Nova managed to convince her to do it anyway, and thus, the strangest thing to happen in any of my campaigns began. But it didn't last long. After the poor stripper tries to start small talk, Calicor takes it upon himself to start questioning her if she knows anything about any potential chaos or gene stealer cults, making the poor stripper back away in tears. Luckily, Novaplex swooped in and she managed to calm Calidor and get the poor girl out of the room. Needless to say, Novaplex's player learned an important lesson that day. What that lesson was, I'm not too certain, but it was definitely a lesson. Anyway, thanks for reading my epic tale of epicness, North, and I hope you're doing well and keep doing what you're doing, dude. Well, that is special, I must say. That is absolutely special. We have time for one more hobby nightmare, so let's jump into it from N. How's it going, man? He says, "Greetings, Mr. North. You may call me N. I've been watching your videos for a while now, and I've noticed that recently there have been a lot of hobby nightmares regarding Games Workshop managers." Yes, there were, yeah. And I thought it would be nice to share an example of what a fantastic Games Workshop manager actually is. For privacy's sake, I will call him G. G is an older gentleman, and has the vibe of an old bartender at a pub that everybody comes to for advice and banters with. When I came to the store for the first time, instead of putting his hand in his pocket and gyrating his hips, he let me browse the store on my own and take a look at what armies would be in the black hole in my wallet in a few years. I remember picking up a Black Templars Combat Patrol, and he gave me the lore background on who they are and how they are always on crusade. What really sold me was when he showed me Grimaldus and how in the lore, the guy has an entire cathedral dropped on him and uses the ruins as his relics. I thought that was so badass that I ended up buying Grimaldus along with Combat Patrol on the spot. He was able to get too much money out of me, and he did not have to mention or gesture to the starter boxes even once. What really struck with me though, was when I asked how I would build the models, he simply said, "It's your hobby, man. Just follow the rule of cool and build whatever you think looks best." After a while, I started getting into Imperial Guard, especially the Death Corps of Krieg. This was before the new range came out, and the only way to get past it Krieg was from the Kill Team box. Nevertheless, I started buying a Kill Team box every couple of weeks or so, and G took notice of what I was doing and started setting a box of Kriegers behind the counter whenever stock came in, giving me a chance to pick it up before he put it on the shelf. Unfortunately, after about a year or so, I ran into some personal issues and had to sell all of my Warhammer stuff, and I left the hobby for about a year. When I came back, a friend who bought my small Necron army offered to sell it back to me for the same price, which I have gladly accepted, and Necrons have become my main army ever since. This is where G truly becomes the GOAT. As I am building my Necron army, I noticed there have been 2 commemorative Necron models that Games Workshop has released in the past. I thought they looked really cool. I wanted to see how much they went for on eBay. Seeing the prices, I was a bit discouraged on spending $100+ on 2 models. I brought this up in conversation with G, and on the spot he told me that he had them both new in box at home, and he would be willing to sell them to me. While it wasn't MSRP, I still ended up getting them for a fraction of what they were going for online. And while this was happening, whenever I have needed painting advice or have an idea for a project, G would only take an interest in what I was saying, but actually help me build a palette and show how different paints interact with each other, the most recent being Lightning for Night Lords. And it is not just me he is like this to. It doesn't matter if you're brand new or have been a player for years, he's always there to help fellow hobbyists with whatever they need. 30k, 40k, Age of Sigmar, Black Library, painting ideas, you name it. G has also let us run games in the store. Because of that, we've been able to get others into the hobby with a few introductory games. I'm going to say this about G. If Games Workshop found out that he'd resold models that were in his home, he'd be sacked. So be very, very, very careful. Don't tell anybody about that. Right? I mean, you can tell me because you haven't named the guy and we don't know where this is. But in your local area, don't tell anybody that this happened. Okay, just don't. Yeah, it doesn't matter if he sold them to you just for out of the goodness of his own heart. If he got those models on a discount, from Games Workshop and then resold them, he would be sacked. He'd be fired. So don't mention it in your local area. Okay. Also, what he's doing here, man, is he's cultivating a good, you know the Kill Team box thing when he's putting that aside for you. That's what a good manager does. He sees your need, he sees what you want, and he reacts to it. That's what he's supposed to do, right? That's awesome. It really is awesome. Anyway, I'm not sure if they do this in every Games Workshop store, but around the holidays, G would host a Secret Santa at the store where regular customers sign up to give each other items off of each other's wish lists. And on the weekend before Christmas, there will be a party at the store where we exchange gifts and enjoy some food. And if for some reason there is somebody on the list who is left out, G would pay out of his own pocket to make sure everybody on the list got something. I wouldn't do that at my store because I wouldn't trust my customers to all commit to the bit, you know what I mean? And I'd end up spending several £100s on models because, you know, so he must have a really good community. I mean, I had a good community, but I wouldn't trust him to do this, you know? I do a Secret Santa, sure, but I wouldn't be like, if anyone doesn't get a prize or doesn't get a present, I'll buy you one. It's like, that's asking for trouble. Needless to say, his positive attitude and fostering of community has been more than noticed, and I have yet to meet anybody from the local 40k scene that has a problem with him. Everyone, even the staff from the local game stores, hold him in very high regard, despite Games Workshop's constant bullshit. His popularity has gotten to the point that I've seen people come to the store and order stuff online from in the store computer for when they could have done it at home, specifically because they want to bump his numbers up and make him look good for the guys back at HQ. That's an awesome thing to do. That is an absolutely fantastic thing to do. I would have a core people who would do that as well. They'd absolutely save up and go, look, you know, I'm going to buy it on your computer. Number one, they get free postage if they do that, but also, you know, it goes through your till then, you know. But the thing is, the thing that would really irritate me, this would happen all the time. There'd be guys who'd come into my store and take up a load of the space and never buy anything, and then he'd buy something online from the Games Workshop website and like swan around in the store like, oh, look at this thing that I got. Even though they know, and I make it very plain, hey, it would really help me out if you guys just got that from the store computer. It costed you the same money. In fact, it'd be cheaper because you'll get free postage. And those same dudes just didn't do it, right? Not because they didn't like me or anything, but just through sheer laziness. They do it one way. They go on their little computer and they order it online, and they'd rather pay more doing that than get it for free postage. And it just really irritated me. You're spending all your time in my store and you're giving the store no money. You know, I once had a customer say to me, what, so we can only sit here if we pay you money? And I just said, yes. Yes. This is a store. It's not a youth club. Yes. Yes, I would rather you spend money. I'm never going to kick you out if you don't spend. Ever, right? But you're not going to be my priority. Right? All the guys who come into my store who spend money, they're my priority. Because I'm running a business, I'm not running a charity, and I'm not running a youth club. So, you're more than welcome here because you're a hobbyist. But like, if your name's James and there's Dave over there, and Dave's spending, you know, £100 a month in my store, and you're spending nothing, you're just using it as a place to DOS, and just to paint, and just, you know, get free time in, I'm going to give him my attention. Do you know what I mean? That's just how business works, man. You know? And most businesses would ask you to leave. I'm not, but most businesses would. And I'd still get people whinging about it. You give them all your time. Yeah, they spend money. Sorry. Like, what do you want me to do? Anyway, after hearing about how badly some Games Workshop managers have treated people, I just wanted to show that not all of them are the same. To the hand-in-pocket managers looking like they're having a nervous wank, stop towing the party line and shoving starter boxes down people's throats, and instead, be more like G. Thanks for all the hard work you do, North, and I look forward to seeing your next video. Best wishes, N. Cheers, mate. That's awesome, and I will be back on Sunday for another live stream. In fact, no, I won't this week because I'll be travelling. I'm going down to Wales for a couple of days. So I will be back on Monday when we're going to be doing a video, and I think we're going to be doing a live stream towards the middle of next week where we're going to be doing the draw for Exile Fest. If you're still here, Exile Fest is coming to Liverpool. It is a week tomorrow. A week tomorrow. Yeah. We are 8 days away from Exile Fest. And it's going to be awesome. And we're going to be doing the draw to see who is playing who in the tournament on Wednesday the 18th. So hopefully I will see you all then on that draw, on that live stream. I love you all a long time. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. And I'll speak to you soon. Have a good one. Bye now.